Hi everyone and welcome to the first rock pool of 2025. What? Today is particularly special because I am at maybe one of my absolute favourite locations ever. I'm at Bracelet Bay, which is right next to Mumbles, which, obvious reasons, given that my name is Marine Mumbles, my channel is named after this location. God, I love it. This is one of the first spots I ever went rock pooling at an undergraduate, and just like opened my eyes to rock pooling in general. Always loved going rock pooling. Not a ton of rock pools where I grew up, lots of like sandy shore, muddy stuff. And so I kind of only went rock pooling when I went on like holiday and stuff, and then didn't really realise all of the incredible wildlife that you could see. I honestly thought there were just like one species of crab and like like I knew about fishing because I'd gone fishing quite a lot, but there was lots that I didn't know about, and I learnt it all, or started to learn it all right here. Right on this very, very glorious beach, which, as you can see, is absolutely chocker with different rock pools. So we have about an hour till low tide, and the tide does not mess around in Swansea. It is actually, I think, the world's second highest tidal range. So it races, it goes up and down about 14 metres in a single tidal cycle at its kind of peak. And today is a pretty low tide, so we are not going to mess about. But just look at this incredible location and this incredible spot. Oh my God, I can't wait to see what we find. I actually don't know. I don't suppose I've rock pooled here in the wintry times since I was an undergrad. In which case, you know, they used to drag us out regardless of the weather. You've got to get used to that as a marine biology trainee. But like, whoa. Oh, and my signature plats are not here. Do you know why they're not in? Because I packed one hairband. So when this hair gets annoying, it will get packed up into one braid, not two. But I feel naked without my Marine Mumbles. Oh my God, it's already here. Look at it. Oh. So I'm actually filming on my phone today, so I can't see if you're in the picture, hopefully. I've spoken about these tons before, so I won't dwell on them too much. Go check out my like proper deep dive into them. But these are Sabellaria reef worms. So each of these little holes is an individual worm that forms these reefs, which are known as ecosystem engineers then, because they engineer their own ecosystem. They are creating cities that seaweeds and other little creatures and lots of fish can take shelter in, and it's gorgeous, and it's really much more common in South Wales, which is where Swansea is and where Mumbles is, but I don't really see it elsewhere, and I just think it is one of the most gorgeous locations and gorgeous things ever. You just got to be careful you don't step on it too much, and it's a really good indicator of like a habitat that we should protect, because we know that when it's here, lots and lots of species are going to be living here to make it its home. So we love seeing Sabellaria. Go Sabellaria! Go worm! Look at those giant waves out there. That is not putting into perspective how big those waves are. Those waves are humongous. I mean, if you're a surfer, that must be great. That's a bit too far out, right? Whoa. Humongous waves. Maybe it's just the ocean saying hello to me. Let's wave back, shall we? Hey! Do you think if the ocean recognises like a human wave, or would it like want one of those like back? We'll do both just in case. Okay, let's see what we can find. This one is a chunky boy of a rock, which bodes well that there might be stuff underneath it, because it won't have been blown around too much in I was going to say Scottish storms then, Welsh storms, and it has been very stormy recently, but I don't know if I can physically lift it over. No. We'll try another one. See if I can do it without going in water above my ankles. No, not lifting up. Oh well, we'll just have a look under the seaweed. See what we can see. Lots of baby seaweed because it's early on in the season. And I don't know if it's baby seaweed or if it's Don't want a beadlet anemone. Or like normal, like seaweed, or it's the same adult version of a seaweed, and sometimes seaweeds die back. So they become really small and just hunker down with like the bare minimum of photosynthesis in the very small amount of light that they get during winter, and then re-blossom again, regrow during the spring. And you always make sure, even if you're moving seaweed, instead of rocks, is just to put it back where you found it to make sure that everything there is nice and protected and safe. How delectable and tantalising are all these rocks. So Sabellaria is definitely kind of a lower shore species, which is why you're seeing a lot of it now at the bottom, because we're starting at the bottom of the shore, which is always useful to make sure that you can be plenty ahead of the tide as it comes back in. And you can see that there's like that distinct difference between, you can kind of see the rocks up here and this kind of Sabellaria reef down here. So we'll walk along and kind of back up to the rocks, stepping as much as possible in between the reefs and on the sand, just so that it doesn't wear and tear the reefs. But they're incredible to see. I just can never fathom that these are just individual animals in each of them. So incredible. Oh, even in just this tiny section, we have so many seaweeds. We have corallina. Now there's two forms of corallina. There's officinalis and elongata. And off of the bat, I would say that maybe that's elongata, because if we zoom right in, it has like elongated, like if it looks more regular, then it's likely to be the elongata. But I wouldn't be able to tell for sure without properly looking at it. God, we've got so many. We've got beautiful reds. This is a beautiful Chondrus crispus. We've got sea lettuce. We've got this beautiful one, which I want to say is a skinny. I don't think it's Dictocotoma, but we've got this beautiful, beautiful red. That species there is a different one. All surviving its way through the winter, riding it out in the cold Welsh waters. Now if this was summer, as we walked through, you would see lots of tiny little larvae or little juvenile animals, realising that this is a predator walking past, a big scary human, and you could see things darting out. But as we walk along today, there is just like no tiny little things darting in and out, and that's just because the point, it's also rushed on the rocky shore. The point of spring is to become little and grow up big during summer, and either leave and go out and survive out there in the very rough storms through winter, or it gets eaten. So a different type, and because it's so competitive, they have lots of, you'll have thousands and thousands of larvae and thousands of young, and only a few will survive through into adulthood. And so if you come at certain times of the year, especially spring when it's kind of all kicking off, there's just so much sea life here before it all gets eaten. Or in rock pools across the UK, it's just teeming with life. And it's so interesting when you go in winter and there's just that stark reminder that that's not the case all year round, and that flurry of life happens seasonally and happens so quickly. It just makes it even more impressive, the creation of so much life. And then, that life fueling more life by being fuel for the bigger ones, or the cleverer ones, or the lucky ones. But just still as anything, these rock pools. Nothing moving. Thrilling content. Just because there's not a lot of movement does not mean it is devoid of life. We have so many of these little barnacles, which is awesome. We have what is that? Oh no, I need to go back into seaweed school. This seaweed here, if you ate it, it would taste metallic-y, like blood, like coppery. Pepper dulse is its name. I think it tastes metallic-y. Sure, I could eat it, but I've already fallen for that because my lecturers made me eat it when I was here in Bracelet Bay, and I feel like I've paid my penance, so that's just a trick. I think it's entirely safe to eat. I mean, you have to check your water quality and water conditions, but it can be used as seasoning, and I think if it's metallic-y, it's probably full of loads of iron. It's probably really good for you, but it just don't taste that nice. We've got limpets here. Now these could be two different species. So this could be Patella vulgata, which is, you know, a much more spherical one, and this could be Patella depressa, which has like darker and more ridges in it. And if you were to get these off, which are very difficult for limpets and you shouldn't do it, oh yeah, that's definitely Patella depressa there. I love painting this one because it's so much more raggedy. You can see the ridges in it compared to a kind of smoother shell here. All of these different lines in it. But if you were to take this off, this would have a black foot, so it's also known as a black-footed limpet, and this would have like a normal kind of yellowy, snaily sort of coloured foot underneath. Something I've wanted to do for ages, a video idea that I haven't got around to yet because you have to go to a few different locations, but I really want to do it, is you can tell how rough a shore is, like how often it gets battered by waves, by how tall the limpets are, because if they're really shallow on the rock, it means they get bashed a lot and they're like hunkering down. But if it's a sheltered shore, they can be much more tall and conical. So you can't actually sometimes rely solely on the shape of a limpet shell to tell between the different species, even though technically a black-footed limpet is usually kind of much lower. You can look at the angle of it, so like how peaked it is. I think Patella vulgata is more triangle shaped, whereas Patella depressa kind of goes along and peaks like to one side. But you can't tell from like how tall it is between the two because they just vary so much between the shores. And not just limpets, we have another type of gastropod. This gorgeous, gorgeous shell. Look at this opalescent, shimmering shell here. Let me zoom in on this. Stunning. Hi, friend. Hi. How are you? You gonna say hello? Yes. This is Gibula umbilicalis, because if you see, and I'm going to put a little arrow on the screen, there's a little dot right in the middle of the opening of the shell, like an umbilical cord. So Gibula umbilicalis is its name, unless it's changed its Latin since I last looked. They do like to do that a lot, scientists, make things more complicated by keeping changing the name. We'll put him back, then back in just a second. But you can see this just gorgeous striped shell. And the sort of oil, like if you spilled oil, that kind of opalescent sheen on the shell. Absolutely stunning. Thank you for being such a good model, my friend. Thank you. If you're wondering, in terms of like social media time, when this is filmed, because I bet this goes out later than when I'm filming it, all I can think of in my head while I'm filming this is, there's an axolotl on, there's a pink axolotl, no, there's an axolotl on the pink stairs. Is he supposed to be there? Wow, beautiful voice. What a backdrop, eh? What a day. This feels so warm compared to Scotland, and there's like barely any wind, the gorgeous sound of the waves. I'm happy. This is awesome. Okay, that rock looks promising, does it not? Surely has to have something cool. Let's go find out. Dude. Without getting my feet too wet. Power pose. That doesn't really work because I'm not that flexible. Oh, it's gone sandy. Oh, we got some sponge. Hi, beautiful sponges. I think that's why nature just inspires so much like, it inspires me so much to draw here, because there's just so many different, like that's a bright pop of colour and is really spongy. And then we swap down to what I'm looking at now. And this is egg-rack, which is kind of dyed back for the winter. It's got really short. And this is called Polysiphonia. It's an epiphyte. So it grows only on this seaweed, pretty much. And it will just live together like little cheerleading kind of pom-poms. But look at the difference in texture. We've got such a smooth thing here, and this just fluffy, delicate piece of seaweed here, which is so intricate compared to this kind of giant, thick bit of egg-rack. Oh, my foot got wet again. I have to say, I'm loving this wide-angle lens. I don't know what I'm looking like, whether I'm like elongated this way, but like I get such cool backdrops and this whole like giant landscape around me while I like go and look. I just think it's really cool. It kind of puts into perspective what is difficult to capture is just how big and vast rocky shores are and how much there is. And although I'm going and looking in these rock pools and showing you all these tiny little bits of life, there's that times a million, probably more than that. That times 1,000 at least on this shore, times that by how many beaches and rocky shores there are in the UK. There's just so much life. I love it so much. Okay, let's get the camera out just in case we find a little octopus. I'm not going to find an octopus. I'm putting it out there. This is the first vlog of 2025. So if any of the sea creatures are watching, you've got the rest of the year to go ahead and just tell your friends, find an octopus and just be like, can we set up an appointment please? A little meeting, I'd appreciate it. I will bring, I don't know, I will bring something to the table. I was going to say biscuits, but I don't think octopuses would appreciate that. Hey, right, Elizabeth, get on with the rock pooling. My goodness. Oh, we have a shrimp. Oh, and some brittle stars. Okay, okay. That's our first kind of like zippy roundy thing we've had, hiding under a bit of seaweed. Usually shrimps are so charismatic, they love the camera. This one's being very shy, but that's fine, it doesn't have to be loud. It probably knows it's the only shrimp on the shore and it's like, I've made it this far, I am not getting eaten now. There's some little brittle stars that already left. Oh, and some porcelain crabs, but they've kind of scarpered under the rock. Fair play. There's still so much life, even in the winter. Of course there is, it's the rocky shore. Would you look at all this on the bottom of here? Stunning. These are all tube worms. And you can just see how much life lives on tube worms. Because they create a shell, so you've got all these bryozoans, these are those little dots that are in there. You've got some spiral worms. You've got another Gibula umbilicalis living on top of it. But you can see, and this will be another type of tube worm in that bit of sand there. But you can see because it makes a shell and all these little nooks and crannies and so much surface area for lots of little things to live. That little dot there, that's probably some sort of sea squirt, maybe a baked bean sea squirt. But it's a bit young to tell. This stuff here is a type of colonial sea squirt that likes to grow together. It's probably a type of diadendum, and I just know that as kind of snot is what I was taught it kind of was, because it just looks and feels a lot like snot. It's not a joke. Yeah, it's weird how well they blend in. Both the barnacles and the limpets. You can barely see them on there. But if we zoom in, so much life. Oh, little tiny crab. He's so little. So little. Hi, little friend. Oh, you're missing a claw. Hi, friend. Hi. So this is a bigger bit of egg rack, and you can see that the reason it's called egg rack is because it has these bladders in it that look like eggs. How excellent. Ooh, so many limpets on that rock. So I've moved back to where we were earlier, and I hope you can kind of see from this higher vantage point, but the Sabellaria reefs down there versus the kind of much more rocky bit up here. And that's because it can form within kind of sand. It can grow in this sort of sand, form its own habitat. I mean, it makes sense that it could grow in sand because the worms use the sand to build the sort of reefs. And so lower down it can form these big kind of chunks, and it really forms much of the lower shore of Bracelet Bay before we move back up into the actual kind of rocky parts. But just imagine, just think for a second that these rocks have been here since, I don't know when, some sort of many million years. They have existed, and that's what's supporting life, like the physical formation of Earth and the many iterations of that, I imagine, is supporting this life. But that second half you can see is almost as covered, it probably is as covered as these sort of rocks, and what is creating that is an animal, is a creature, is a species. And it's just one of those things where we need to protect it. Like, as climate change happens, or as things happen to our nature, you know, the rocks will stay in various forms, but it's going to be the nature that suffers. And just think that this is just one type of creature that is supporting so much life. And I'm not saying, and I don't know, I have to go back and look it up, if Sabellaria reefs are threatened by human action. But just for a second, using that as an example of how life supports life, just appreciate that for a second, because that's just going to help so much more when it comes to building that urge and that impact that we need to have to help protect our ocean. It's just by taking that moment to appreciate it, because that is so cool. That is amazing. I love it so much. It's just incredible. Isn't this just spectacular? Oh, I think sometimes when I could go and, you know, search in all of the different crevices for all of the different species, but when there is less about, less to find because it's winter, you do just spend a little more time taking in the environment as well. Sometimes I am guilty of spending all of my time looking straight down into the crevices and under the rocks, and it's just lovely to take in where you get to be sometimes, overlooking the amazing Mumbles lighthouse, just listening to those waves is incredible. And the colours today are just gorgeous. Yes, it's grey, but it's just something so beautiful and calming and just lovely. And I've obviously not rockpooled in so long that I'm just so happy to be out here, and so joyous that I get the chance to explore here. And every time I go rockpooling, I get the same feeling. I'm like, oh, I wish that tide wouldn't come in. I mean, I do, because I want all of my lovely sea creature friends here to be able to survive. I don't mean in that sense, but just, I could stay here forever quite happily, I think. Especially in Mumbles, because Joe's ice cream is just around the corner. And I could live off that stuff. Don't need any other sustenance. Something that is that bright blue can absolutely fuel you for life. Fact. No, I'm only a sea life scientist. Don't listen to me for any other stuff. I'm not that sort of doctor. I love finding this. I don't know why I always find stuff like this so funny. Because this snail is going along and it's probably eating the biofilm off of the rock. So that's lots of little algae, microalgae that you can't really see live on that rock, and it's going along and like slurping it up. And so it's going along, and the bits of sand that have settled on it, it's like getting it away like a hoover. And that is why snails are Roombas of the ocean. Oh wow, look how gorgeous that seaweed is in full kind of bloom. Wow, that is so cool. That's like a firework underwater. Let's try and get a video of that. I don't know how well it'll come out because oh wow, that's so cool. I have to admit, my seaweeds need a brush up and an ID because I can't ID that one. But hopefully with a seaweed book, which is, although back in Scotland I can. It's just a 3D shape that it creates underwater is both gorgeous as well as the actual branches itself. It's like an underwater Acer tree. That's lovely. Am I going to draw me like one of your French girl positions? Okay, stop getting distracted and film the pretty seaweed. Oh, I should probably take pictures. I always forget sometimes with pictures. Gotta have the TikTok direction. As much as I love TikTok, whoever decided that YouTube should be horizontal and TikTok should be vertical, I'm sure every content creator would love a serious chat with them. To be like, why did you do this to us? Please pick one, stick to it. It makes it so much easier. Oh, I dipped my hair in the water. That's fine. It was bound to happen. Also why plaits are useful is that it shortens your hair. That's usually my limit. Like, how long do you want your hair? Well, if I can plait it and it doesn't dip in the water, that's how long I have it. So now it's looking like I'm sitting in this nice, like, delicate pose, like I'm like model for the camera, some sort of like siren. But really, I'm thinking I'm gonna need to put my foot in the water to get up, or this is gonna be so inelegant. You have no idea how much I edit out. How many like seconds of like moving faff like this, making apparently old people noises. Well, I'm unfortunately going to have to leave it here, which just sucks so much. I wish I could rock pool until the entire thing gets covered. Well, it honestly won't be that long until that happens anyway. The tide is definitely turned. It's definitely coming up quite quick. It's also hard to tell, but we are losing the light, which is making like actually getting stuff looking amazing on film slightly less good, which is like a tiny minor complaint. The main one is that it's a Sunday and I have to catch many buses to get back to where I'm staying, so I need to make sure that I can get back. I'm gonna have to head off, but I might just stand and stare at this beautiful view for a bit longer, but you don't need to watch me watching stuff. But yeah, it was so good to do the first Rockpooling vlog of 2025. Hopefully there'll be loads more to come, loads more to do, loads more to see, so many species, so many plans. It's only February, we've already got our first Rockpooling one in. Let's see how many times we can be in this amazing habitat this year. Every day? Maybe. Is that over optimistic? Yes. Am I going to end on saying something silly like that? Absolutely. See you next time, everyone. Bye.